Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you this afternoon. I'm so sorry that I can't be with you in person, particularly as this interesting topic is very close to my heart. Diplomacy is all about knowledge transfer. My job is to make sure that Hungary knows and understands what's happening in the UK, and vice versa. Knowledge is the currency of diplomats, and we add the most value when we share it and when we're ready to learn from it. Practical intelligence is important too. My personal view is that intelligence is not much use if it's not practical. Of course, there's a place for theory and academic study. Much of the knowledge we have to share is based on it. But diplomacy is a hands-on business, and I'm often surprised that people think that I'm engaged in some kind of philosophical inquiry, wondering about the nature of international relations. The reality is that I'm out and about, talking and listening all day, every day, and always trying to find a pragmatic solution, whether I'm discussing relations with Russia or the embassy's holiday plans. But knowledge transfer has been very important to me in other ways too. Over many years, I've benefited from the generosity of a vast range of people who've been kind enough to give me advice and support and encouragement. It started with my grandparents, who had had very little education themselves and who knew nothing about classical music or languages, but who believed passionately that these things were important and who did their best to inspire me and my sisters to do better than they had done. Then my parents, who sacrificed a great deal for my education and never stopped pushing me to succeed. Then some inspirational university teachers who never doubted that I and my classmates could do anything we wanted. And then many, many colleagues, male and female, senior and junior, British and from many other countries, all happy to share what they knew and to answer my questions. There were other people too, of course, friends who were walking the same path at the same time and learning the same lessons. The many, many friends I've made in a diplomatic career of almost 30 years, who have generously helped me understand their own cultures and languages and ensured that I have never just been a tourist or another expat. My husband and my 3 daughters, who've been endlessly patient with my thirst for knowledge and always ready to share their own points of view, and equally ready to ensure that I understand that not everyone agrees with me. I'm lucky enough to work for an organisation which puts learning and development at the heart of everything it does, which values practical learning above classroom learning, and which encourages its staff to learn from one another. The Foreign Office has encouraged and helped me to train as a trainer, a coach, and a mentor. It's easy to see how knowledge transfer works in a training setting. The trainer trains, the participants learn. You can train people to do something they can't do, or to do something better or differently. But the relationship ends there. And one of the frustrations of training is that there's rarely enough follow-up or enough reinforcement of the lessons learned. Coaching is a different relationship, not so much knowledge transfer as knowledge discovery. You can coach someone to do something you know nothing about and can't do yourself. I know this because my first coaching practice when I began my training was helping a British Olympic runner figure out how to throw a football into a waste paper bin as many times as possible in 1 minute. Neither of us was much good at it. But I asked lots of questions along the lines of, what else could you try? And how did that feel? The athlete told me what worked for her, and we were able to increase the score massively in half an hour. It was just a game, but it was a powerful lesson for me. It's a privilege to coach someone, and always a great pleasure to see them figure out what they need to do. As I prepare to step up to a new role here in Budapest, I'm looking forward to working with a coach myself. I know I have all the answers, but I also know that I need someone else to ask me the right questions. I've also been a mentor many, many times, and a mentee, sometimes formally, often much less formally. I've sought advice and guidance from people I trusted and admired, asked them how they do things, asked them to share their top tips, watched as they demonstrate the skills I'd like to acquire. In Budapest, I've been mentored by first the Dutch ambassador and then the Swedish ambassador, and more recently by a senior British business representative. The transfer of knowledge always goes both ways, and every session is useful, often in the most unexpected ways. I've also had a reverse mentor in the embassy, a more junior local member of staff, whose insights into what I do and how I do it, and how I appear to others, has been invaluable. It's good to remember that knowledge doesn't always have to flow down. It can flow up and across as well, as I learned from mentoring a colleague at the same level as me in a different department, the Department of Agriculture in London. I recently organised a speed mentoring event for young Hungarian women, using senior ladies, ambassadors, businesswomen, journalists, politicians, to give advice and encouragement. I promised that everyone would learn something from the series of 10-minute one-to-one sessions, and everyone did. The mentors were impressed by the enthusiasm and energy of the young ladies, and the mentees were inspired by the senior ladies who gave up their time to answer some interesting questions about balancing a career and family, how to find opportunities and make the most of them, and where to look for inspiration. That evening was a fantastic example of practical intelligence and knowledge transfer in action. That event was specifically for ladies, and there is certainly a sense of female solidarity, which sometimes makes it easier for us to ask honest questions of one another. I have never asked a male colleague how he balanced his work and family life, but perhaps I should. In spite of, or perhaps because of, attending a girls' school and the first women's college at Cambridge, I think I'm gender blind. Many of my best friends and most inspiring colleagues have been men. There are two in particular who stick in my mind, and when I'm stuck for an answer, I often ask myself what they would do. I will always be grateful for their support and for their unquestioning encouragement. It's certainly true that a good example is contagious. Recently, Emma Watson, famous as Hermione from the Harry Potter movies, has been promoting He for She, a solidarity movement for gender equality, which brings one half of humanity, men, together in support of the other half of humanity, women, for the benefit of all. If you haven't heard about the movement, please have a look at the heforshe.org website and sign up to the He for She commitment, which states that gender equality is not only a women's issue, it is a human rights issue that requires my participation. I wish you a successful and interesting event today. I'm sure that the atmosphere will be buzzing as knowledge is transferred in every direction, and I very much hope that practical intelligence will be at work all day. I look forward to hearing about it.